Hello, and welcome back to Invitation to Puzzles, where today I have a full deck and missing a few cards puzzle for you. I admit, earlier today I went through and I picked out a bunch of puzzles of theirs that looked interesting to me. And as it happened, a lot of them involved a constraint together with black or white dots, so they'll probably get metered out a bit, but you're probably going to, in the near future, see a lot of missing and full puzzles that involve black dots plus another constraint, because, well, what can I say? I'm a Zeta who enjoys a black dot now and then. All right, so what have we here? Here we have a killer, which are these cages that tell you the sum of the digits. So these sum to 17, these sum to 15, for example. And we have our friends, the black dots, which mean that one of the black dot digits is double the other. This is listed in the rules as ratio pairs. And that's just to emphasize the fact that you cannot have, that you can have ratios that aren't given. So, for example, it's okay if there's a 4 and an 8 next to each other that don't have a black dot, but you could put a 4 and an 8 on a black dot. Okay, so I could start with the 7 cage. I'm actually going to start with something else, which is that I'm going to start by marking every cell in the grid that is on a black dot, because there's so many black dots that I think this might be interesting. And it's interesting for the following reason, which is why I started this. There's only 3 digits that can't go on black dots, namely 5, 7, and 9. 5 would double to 10, 7 to 14, and 9 to 18. And so a coloring that is often useful in grids with this many black dots is to color the things that are definitely black dot digits, and then the things that definitely aren't black dot digits. And so, for example, actually, one thing that you can notice is that within this within this box, these 3 have to be 5, 7, 9. So 5, 7, 9s are yellow, is basically what this is doing. And I could also deduce that in this row. This has to be a 5, 7, 9. And I can also deduce that in this column, where I see only 3 cells left. Let's see. Is there any other freebie for me? There might not be. Oh, this column. There we go. There's one more. And actually, sorry, I see another one too. These have to be 5, 7, 9. And this row, actually, these have to be 5, 7, 9. Now this box has all 3 of its 5, 7, 9s, so these cells I can mark. They are black dot digits, even though they're not on black dots. This column has all of its 5, 7, 9, so these aren't black dot digits. Let's see. Yeah, that might be all we can do for now, but that's at least a good start. Now, I'm sure everyone has been yelling and screaming and throwing things about the fact that this 7 cage was also a very good place to start, but it wasn't in box 1, and so I didn't start there. That is the way of the Zeta, if you will. Namely, just to look at this, a 7 cage in 3 only has one option. That does include the requirement that digits can't repeat within a killer cage, which I may or may not have said during the intro. But I will point out, as I always try to, if you go under the advanced options, there's this thing called the killer calculator that you can turn on. And if you have that enabled, then when you click on a cage, it will pop up here over on the rules. It will pop up the options. So it will tell you, for example, a 7 cage in 3 digits can only be 1, 2, 4, whereas a 16 cage in 4 can be like a million bajillion things. You could look at things like how many ways are there to do this. This 15 cage, for example, that don't involve a 5, a 7, or a 9. And you could do that kind of thing as well. So this is a quite powerful tool, but I'll just point out that if you don't sort of have internalized that, oh, well, this has to be a 1, 2, 4, that tool is available to be helpful. Okay, so we have here a incarnation of the what digits can go on a black dot game. Namely, there's really two flavors of black dot. There's the 1, 2, 4, 8 flavor and the 3, 6 flavor, and they don't mix. So this digit, I know, because of the fact that the 1, 2, and 4 are in the 7 cage, this is not a 1, 2, or a 4, and it's not a 5, 7, or a 9. And the thing I'm pointing out is it's also not a 3 or a 6. Because if it were a 3 or a 6, well, that only doubles or halves to 3 and 6. So I've actually just articulated for you that this digit is not every digit except the exact digit 8. So this digit is, if you want in one perspective, a naked single 8. It's the only possible digit that could go here. Or if you want, you could think about it as it's got to be in the 1, 2, 4 family. Sorry, the 1, 2, 4, 8 family, but not be 1, 2, or 4. It's got to be an 8, which only goes with a 4, making those a 1, 2 pair. Okay. So what does that buy us is a very reasonable question that I'm not sure I immediately know the answer to. As it feels like it should probably get us something, because I assume that's where we're supposed to start, but maybe not. Let's see. I know one of these black dots is 3, 6, so I know that one's not 3, 6, but I don't really want to pencil mark that. That sounds horrible. Let's see. Are there any 16 gauges that don't have at least 1, 5, 7, 9 in them? That's probably not the question I'm supposed to ask. But it's the kind of question that my brain is inclined to ask based on previous life experience. Okay, well, let's look at this 14 cage, which we have learned does not include a 5, 7, or 9. Well, that is useful. Okay, this is way more useful than I thought. This 14 cage does not include a 5, 7, or 9, and so actually you have to take 2, 4, and 8 is the only way to make this happen. That is quite interesting. So if this has to be 2, 4, 8, by the way, you just double click something if you want to say it's not there. This has to be 2, 4, 8, but actually that has to be the 2 because I've got a 1, 2 looking across here telling me that these aren't 2. So those are the 4 and the 8. That's the 2, and now that tells me that's the 4 and that's the 8. So there's an 8 in there somewhere. There's a 2 in here somewhere. I think I could actually prove the 2 has to be on that black dot, but I don't really want to. I'll instead just say what this black dot is. Namely, this black dot now has to be 3, 6, because, well, the only digits I have left are 1, 3, and 6, and, well, the 1 only goes with a 2, so that's a 3, 6 black dot, and that's a 1. Okay, and so now this is a 1, 2, 4. Definitely has a 2 on it. This is the last digit. It's a 1 or a 4. But not a 1, because if this were a 1, that would be a 2. And that can't be. So this is a 4, and actually that's an 8, because that can't be a 2 either. Okay, so we get our 1, 2 over here. Now, I see these black dots looking down at this cell marked 3, 6. So neither of these black dots can be from the 3, 6 family, because if they were, again, they would be 3, 6, and they look at a cell that's already labeled 3, 6. Well, that's not going to work. So these have to be from the 1, 2, 4, 8 family, which means they're actually a 1, 2, 4, 8 quadruple, and even means slightly more if you think about it. 1 is 1, 2, and 1 is 4, 8. So in particular, and this shows up fairly often in these puzzles, neither of these can possibly be 2, 4, because if it was, it would break the other one. So they're sort of both extremes, not the middle option. Okay, and after all of that, that means this digit is 3 or 6, because that's the only digits left in the column after we've placed the 1, 2, 4, 8 and the 5, 7, 9s. So that's a 3, 6, which only goes with 3, 6. And so this is a 1, 2, 4, or 8. This seems not to be a 2 or a 4. This seems not to be a 1 or an 8. So we have to ask ourselves, what are we doing in this 17 cage? Are we doing a 1 and a 2 and a 14? Or are we doing an 8 and a 4 and a 5? And we're probably not doing the one that involved a 14. So actually we can fill in that 8, 4, 5. That actually makes these a 1, 2. Which makes these a 4, 8. Looking down over here, no 5s over there. For what it's worth, in this box, the 5 is now in this column, so that's not a 5 either. That's probably not going to be a helpful thing to mark, but I'm going to mark it anyway. Let's see, that's not a 5 either. It might be helpful to note that this 3, 6 actually sees both of these black dots in the sort of weird way that black dots see each other. Neither of these black dots can be from the 3, 6 family either, because they have a cell on them that can't be 3, 6. So these are also from 1, 2, 4, 8. I'm just going to mark. And in particular, I saw this one can't be 1, 2 actually either, because if it was 1, 2, it would break that cell. So actually, this is from 2, 4, 8. I don't know that any of this is very useful, but I saw it, and so you get to hear about it. That's kind of the way the whole channel works. Okay, this could be 1, 2, or 3, 6. I don't know about that. I'm sort of interested in looking at some of these killer cages and seeing if it's a problem if this digit is something as large as 8. Because if this is an 8, then the other 3 digits here have to add to 8. So they would have to be 1, 3, 4. Which I see they can't be, but that can't possibly be the intended deduction. Let's see. What else are we doing? Let's see. Can I possibly do anything? I know there's exactly one odd digit in here, because the only odd digits available are 1 and 3, because there are no yellow digits available, and the total here is odd. So either that's a 1 or that's a 3, and that's the only one, which feels potentially very powerful. But I don't quite know what to do with it. So these are either both even. This feels like this is probably what they're mathematicians, right? This is probably what they wanted me to think about. These are either both even or both odd. If they're both odd, they're a 1, 3 pair, and this is 1, 3, 4 plus 7. I'm a little bit disappointed that works. Or these are both even, in which case they could be something like, they'd be at least 2, 6. What's 2, 4, 6? Is that too big? 2, 4, 6 is too big. Okay, so these are either both even or they're both odd, just by the fact that this needs to have an odd total. If they're both even, the minimum sum of these digits is 12. It's 2, 4, 6, which is 12. However, the problem is that if these are a minimum 12, that would make this cell, which I know is a 5, 7, 9, a maximum of 3. That's not going to work. So in fact, actually that 1, 3 that I was annoyed seemed to work so well, actually is the answer. So these are a 2, 6. And now that is 8, meaning that this digit is a 7. Which actually means that that digit's a 9. Oops. We'll bounce that around like that. Let's see. That 5, 7 pair looks up and makes that a 9. So that's not a 7. That's not a 9. Okay. That seems promising, at least. So can we, in any way, repeat this success elsewhere? I mean, I guess I know, for example, that one of these is odd. One of them is a 1 or a 3. I don't feel like that's telling me a lot. I know that these are both even or they're both odd. Oh, I know that these both sum to 8. How long has that been available? I'm a little afraid that this has been available for a long time. So yeah, so these are 3, 5 or 2, 6. Maybe I don't actually know whether it's 3, 5 or 2, 6. I don't think I actually do now that I mention it. Okay, so I'm not that worried that I missed something glaring anymore. I can write in that this is either a 3 with a 5 or a 2, 6. Doesn't feel incredibly powerful. I mean, I guess it does let me blue this cell. Maybe not the ultimate fantasy. This cell is not 5, 7, or 9 anymore. Okay, I see that I actually am supposed to know what this 15 cage is, actually. Because I see that if I use the killer calculator, this can't be 1, 2, 4, 8, because it needs to have a 3, 6 in it. Because we just see it has a 3, 6 in it. I guess this depends on whether that is... I doubt that was the intended strat for this. Oh, well, here's a point. This can't be 3, 6. Because if this is 3, 6, it breaks that 8 sum. That feels more likely to be the intended strat. Because this is either 2 and 6 or 3 and 5. And so if this is 3, 6, it cleanly breaks both. So this is from 1, 2, 4, 8, and it's not 1, 2 because of that digit over there. So it definitely has a 4 on it for what it's worth. But now where are the 3 and the 6 in this row? They can't both go there. So one of them is on this black dot, which in fact tells me that this black dot is a 3, 6. And now I know that these two digits add to 9. And if these two digits add to 9, then these two digits need to add to 6, and I can't do 1, 5, so I have to do 2, 4. Okay, that felt like I found the right idea. That's not a 4. These aren't 2, so those are 4, 8, which actually tells me that that is a 1, right, for the row. That's the digit I don't have left. So that's a 2, making that a 6 and a 3, and a 1 and a 2, and a 1 and a 2. Let's see. These aren't 1. That's not 4. That's not 2. Okay, neither of these is 2, so neither of them is 6 either. So we can fill in all of that. The 4, 8 pair gives me a 2 and a 4. Gives me an 8 and a 4. These total to 11, so I need that to be a 5, which I can chase further down the column. This digit I see sees 5, 7, and 9, so it's a blue digit of some sort. In fact, this is a 3, 6, if you just look at what is happening. These digits actually are yellow because they see 1, 2, 4, and 8, and 3 and 6. These both see every blue digit, so they're yellow. I guess maybe a less sophisticated way to do that would be to say, where does 8 go in this box? It goes here by Sudoku. And therefore it's blue, and therefore these are both yellow, and they're a 7-9 pair, and therefore this is blue. And is the remaining digit in the row, which is a 6. I guess I could have just done sort of like 3-6 Doku across there if you wanted. This column now needs 2 more yellows, so it's those 2, which makes that the 9 for the box, makes that blue, makes that a 5. And interestingly, these now see the 5, the 7, and the 9, so neither of these is blue. Or sorry, neither of these is yellow. One of these 2 is a 9, I know. There's a 5 somewhere across there. Let's see. Oh, it's a 1 that does it, because this box still needs a 1, and that 1 goes over here. Oops, making that a 9. And in this column, actually, we can now do that. That's a 7. One of these 2 is a 9. These are, okay, that's a 6 because it's the last digit in the box. That's an 8 because it's the last digit in the column, which makes that a 2. Okay, that comes over here to this 16 cage and fills in that 1. Okay, these are still 3, 6 in some undisclosed order. This is also a 3 or a 6, just by looking at the digits that it sees. Okay, I do definitely see that this being an 8 doesn't work, and it's now much cleaner than it was before, because if this was an 8, I would need these to be 1, 3, 4, and now that digit just can't be 4, because there's a 4 looking at it. In fact, actually, if I look at it, maybe this is the easier way. What digits can this possibly be? Not 1, 2, 3, or 4, so this can be 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, but it's not even 6 or 7, so this is a 5, 8, or 9. And so the minimum sum of these digits is 9, which means this is a maximum of 7. That's probably the nicest way to say it. And so now these 2 need to add to 11, so they're either 3 and 8 or 6 and 5. This is never a 9. Unfortunately, that doesn't really sort out the world. Okay, I see that the 8 is placed. Oh, no, it's placed. Oh, it is placed there by Sudoku. Yeah, this is an 8 by Sudoku. Okay, that is a good thing to have. And so now that tells me that this is a 3 and a 6, making that a 3 and a 6, making that a 3 and a 6. Okay, good. So now we've got all of our 8s. That was probably the easier way to do that. Okay, what about our 2s? That's a 2. Making these both yellow. Okay, that's all my yellows for this row, so that makes that blue. In fact, that one is a 5, and that one's a 7. These are 1, 3, 6, so that one's the 6 because it sees 1 and 3. These are 1, 3. I don't know the order yet. I'm prepared to find the order. This is a 6 by Sudoku. Making this a 1 or a 3 by the row. That's a 3 by Sudoku. Making that yellow and a 9. Let's see, that 3 looks back over. This is a 1. That is a 5 for the row. There's still a 9 to be found at a later date and time. I'm surprised this resolves, actually. We've just got some pure Sudoku-age to do here, basically. One of those is a 5. I don't know which one. Let's see. One of these 2 is a 3. It's that one. So that's the yellow digit. One of these two is a 6, and it's that one. So that's the yellow digit. And now there we go. So that's going to do it. So first of all, this column now has all its yellow digits. So that's not yellow, which means that is yellow. But now this sees the 5 and the 9. So it's a 7. That's a 5. So then we've got our 9 and our 7. Our 9 over here, and a 4 to finish off the puzzle. Very nice puzzle there. I enjoyed that. I'm curious if I might have missed an intended step. This felt like maybe this wasn't quite the way they wanted me to think about it. I might have been able to be a little bit, I might have been able to go about that part of the puzzle a little bit differently, but this is a very neat solve all through. I enjoyed the interaction of the two constraints. But thanks now to everyone for watching, and I'll see you next time on Invitation to Puzzles. Do please leave a kind comment. Bye for now.